Clay, do you have outside of the realm of Star Trek, do you have a favorite animated movie?
Favorite animated movie? You know, I usually come back to The Incredibles because at the time The Incredibles was the best superhero comic book movie ever made. And it still holds up really well. I think that's pretty high up there. Although I also really love WALL-E. WALL-E's really great too.
Yeah. Pixar's done a lot of good, I think. I have a couple. I flip-flop between like the original Lion King. Toy Story 3 is really good. I think
yeah.
Up is really good.
Both of those I've never been able to bring myself to watch because it falls into that category now where like when people talk about it, they talk about how depressing and sad it is. And I'm like, I don't really know if I feel like putting myself through that. Like my mother loves that shit. She actively stayed one day. She was home from work sick, and she spent her day watching Marley and Me.
Yeah, like
on purpose. And like so, and it's just like I'm at that point where there's some things where I don't necessarily know if I know that they're going to make me cry. I don't really know if I feel like doing that willingly.
Yeah, and Brian opening it up. I think Up is only sad in the opening, kind of. That's the Heartstrings famous opening sequence thing where they do that. But yeah, they're I think that's pretty much it for me. I mean, I just said that as a segue because we're about to talk about the animated short treks that just came out. There's 2 of them, so we'll do that right after this. We're going to play some music and then we'll get into it.
Accessing library computer data.
The world doesn't always adhere to logic. And sometimes when you're lost, you're found.
So the episodes we're going to be talking about today are called The Girl Who Made the Stars and Ephraim and Dot. They're the 2 new animated short treks that just came out. They're both about 7.5 minutes long. They came out on the same day to make it a full-length feature short trek experience, I guess, of about 15 minutes. The Girl Who Made the Stars was the 4th of the 2nd series of these things, written by Brandon Schultz, directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. In this one, when a lightning storm in space scares a young Michael Burnham, her father aims to ease her fears with a mythical story about a brave little girl who faced her own fears head-on. The second one is called Ephraim and Dot. It is the 5th one of the 2nd series of these things, written by Chris Silvestri and Anthony Moranville, directed by Michael Giacchino, I guess. Ephraim, a humble tardigrade, is flying through the mycelial network when an unexpected encounter takes her on a bewildering adventure through space. Clay, which one did you like better? Did you like either? I guess.
I did. I enjoyed them. I thought they were both really cute, and I thought they were fairly well done. My first instinct is to Ephraim and Dot because of all the Star Trek shit that was in it, but I think the other one is probably a better story. Mm-hmm. Even though I guess the one thing that we learned from The Girl Who Made the Stars is I guess we know where Burnham got her superiority complex from.
They start them young with that kind of stuff. I thought Ephraim and Dot was basically better in every way than the other one, which is not to say that The Girl Who Made the Stars was bad, but The Girl Who Made the Stars felt like kind of a half-baked version of everything.
Yeah.
I think like I wasn't crazy about the animation. The animation felt like kind of a studio being pressed to put something together pretty quickly.
Sure.
I think that I like the story of The Girl Who Made the Stars, and I think it's a nice Star Trek parable where they tie in this like African folklore story of trying to break free of the darkness and to try to find like the light, enlightenment, basically a very Star Trek-y exploration type of theme. I thought that worked pretty well. It's nice to get a little bit of backstory about Burnham and her parents, even if it's just an animated short like that. I think that's a nice way to tie it in and keep things simple. But I thought that Ephraim and Dot was like really good in a lot of ways. I like the animation. I like the story. I like the way that they tied in the old audio clips into it and stuff like that.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I liked that one. And I left happy with both of these, which I can't say about a lot of the short tracks, but I was pleasantly surprised by both of them.
Dad! Michael, I'm here. It's okay. What is it?
It was so scary. It was so scary.
Shadow again, huh?
Computer, aluminum, loop.
Illuminate?
That's what I said. Make it brighter.
Computer illuminate.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed both of them. I liked. It was interesting to see that Michael Giacchino directed the second one, because it is very much. There's no dialogue in it. It's very much almost musically driven.
He's a composer.
It seemed like
yeah,
he's the composer of. He's not the regular series composer, but I think he wrote the theme song, or he's the music supervisor or something. He did the music for the J.J. Abrams Trek movies. He's a very good composer. Yeah, it was good. I love the way that the Enterprise looked, animated that way. It was a nice, that sort of cell shading animation that's not quite Pixar and not quite 2D.
Yeah.
I thought lent itself very well to the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was,
I would
it was
like to
nice,
see a
nice
series
little
in that design, actually. Like, I think that kind of animation could do a Star Trek series. I know that they're not, and none of the upcoming ones are going to look like this, but I thought it was a clever sort of mix of the old and new. Yeah,
I think they would have to take a hard look at how they do the people in that animation, because I didn't think the people looked very good. You only see people for like half a second, but they looked pretty stock.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing, I don't care about details when it comes to this stuff, but before I realized exactly what they were doing, when they showed the shot inside the window during the Khan episode,
yeah,
I was kind of disappointed that they didn't update the uniforms to be Discovery specific. So like they were clearly just wearing the original series colored sweatshirts.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, oh, I wish they had given, Kirk the what's his name? The Pike jacket, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But once I saw what they were doing, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. No, never mind.
I liked when they're flying through the ship, Ephraim and Dot, and they hit all the laundry pile. It's just the red, yellow, and blue uniforms in the pile. Like it had a lot of cute touches like that. And the basic plot of it is just they combine Discovery and TOS together by having this tardigrade who is trying to lay eggs on the ship or something, and then she gets chased off by those little dot bots, the ones that we saw in the end of season 2 of Discovery, the things that come out to try to repair the ship or keep things safe.
Oh, honestly, didn't even remember that was a thing.
Yeah, that's where that guy comes from. So
sure,
they have a kind of antagonistic relationship, and then the tardigrade chases the Enterprise through its 5-year mission, trying to catch up with it through this montage of all the stuff that you're familiar with from TOS, and then it ends with the destruction of the Enterprise from Search for Spock. And yeah, I thought it was I liked it because I thought that it did a good job of it is like a very celebratory TOS thing, but it gives you enough of a new sort of take on the story and a new character and a new animation style where it feels like it justifies its existence as a short in this way. Sure. And this is really all I want from these things. And no one was begging for tardigrade backstory, and if you even want to argue that this is tardigrade's backstory, but I think it does a good job of mixing old stuff with new stuff in a way that's like pleasant to watch. It doesn't really ruin anything for you. You're not thinking too hard about what's going on, but it's fun, I guess, would be the main takeaway from it. Yeah,
I thought it was, it's a nice, simple story. Hits the story beats pretty solidly and gives you a and all the talk of fan service, I would say this is a very fan servicey short.
Yep.
But I don't see that as a bad thing in this case.
My only surprise from it was that I thought that Dot was kind of a dick to this to poor tardigrade. But he comes through in the end by being the good guy. But he's doing a lot of tasering of the tardigrade and picking him up and slamming him on the ground endlessly, or her on the ground over and over again.
Yeah, I did have my nerd brain did kick in for a second before I told it to shut up and stop thinking stupid stuff. Where I was thinking, I understand what they're doing, but you're telling me that the Enterprise never went back to base and nobody left? And I mean, there's like 10 years between the movies here. I don't know why he can't just go in and get these eggs like while nobody else is on the ship. It's not like they're constantly flying for 15 years. There's a point where this thing gets stopped, gets retrofitted. They probably find the eggs while they're retrofitting the Enterprise. And then I was like, just shut up. brain.
Just enjoy it.
That's stupid. You just enjoy the stupid story.
Yeah, I like.
Where does this fit into canon, Wes?
I know it's tough that it can't. I feel like the animation separates it from canon in a way. Like I don't really consider the animated series to be canon. For apparently it is, but it seems too strange and out of left field for it to actually be canon. So I kind of treat these ones the same way. Anything that's animated doesn't feel real.
I would like to take the opportunity to say something I've been thinking recently, and that is that in the era that we live in right now, I don't think canon is a thing anymore. And I know I don't mean that in just Star Trek. I mean that in anything, because things get revamped, rebooted, redone, remade, sequelized, skipping other movies, blah, 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 so frequently and so at the whim of any creator who's allowed to play with the property, that I don't think canon is a thing you need to worry about anymore, because everything is canon, but also nothing is canon.
Right.
So it's all what you decide that you want to adhere to at this point. So I think that's a good thing to remember when you're going to get mad about whether or not something is canon.
Yeah. No, I agree. What did you sounded more positive on the girl who made the stars story. Was there any
I think you kind of talked me out of it, honestly. I came away from that one being like, oh, that was a nice story. That was just pretty straightforward, nice little parable that they told. When they showed that robot alien thing at the end, I was like, is this going to come back somehow in the that's what was kind of getting me about these two, is the other ones that they've done up to this point. I'm still not out of the mindset that these are somehow going to play into the upcoming season.
Yep.
These two very clearly don't feel like that's going to be the case. Well, at least the Ephraim and Dot doesn't. But when they were doing the stuff where like the alien gives the kid this ball with the stars and stuff, part of me was like, is this going to be like Burnham is going to remember this halfway through season 3 when she sees the same ship is now 3,000 years into the future where they are, or whatever it is, But take that aside, again, getting out of my own continuity canon head, which you shouldn't be in the first place to try to enjoy stuff. I thought it was just a nice little story. I would say both of them. I think I like both of them more or less the same. Yeah.
No, I know that there's not a lot to say about them really, besides the fact that they're very light and pleasant, I guess I would describe it. I think I was really just sort of thrown off by the animation of the girl who made the stars. I just don't think it's very good. It feels like one of those after school CGI shows at that point, where it feels pretty stock and not a lot of detail in it or anything like that. And the second one, Ephraim and Dot, was really kind of impressive with how much unique animation was going on in there. Yeah. Like a lot of movement, a lot of stuff.
I wonder how much of that is due to the style, because the style of the first one requires a lot more finely rendered stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is that sort of Pixar look where it's like a caricature, but it still has real texture to it. And if you're going to do that and you don't have the time and the money to do that, then it's going to feel a little bit undercooked.
Yeah.
But that the more cell shaded stuff you get a little bit more leeway when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I just like it better too. I think it's a better art style than the other one.
Yeah.
It looks more eye catching and eye popping, and I think that the colors show better in Star Trek for that kind of thing. Like it's very brightly lit, and in a way that the first one isn't, because the first one deals with darkness and everything like that. That said,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just think the main positive, I think, of the first one is that I think the first one thematically feels like Star Trek in a way that's not really fan servicey in the way that the second one is. And I think that the script for the first one is probably better just because that kind of sums up like what a short of these should be to me, where it's a character story and you get this beats about some of the characters that exist, and this is Burnham growing up and she hears this story, but you could see why a story like this from her father would inspire her to be a Star Trek character.
Yeah. I was just going to ask generally, how do you feel about CGI animation versus traditional animation? Traditional meaning like hand-drawn 2D animation.
I mean, what was even the last hand-drawn Disney? It's probably been forever since that happened, right? Might it be Lion King?
Yeah, it's kind of doesn't really exist anymore. The reason that I bring it up is because these things take so much work. Like any animation of any kind takes so much work. CGI takes so much work. And I was talking to my mother one time, and she was saying how much she loved the 2D animation and how the old Disney movies, you could see the pencil marks and stuff. And she really doesn't like the new 3D stuff. And she said, "Do they even have artists who work on that stuff?" Mm-hmm. And the back of my head just blew off. I was like, it's not like they open up a window on a computer and they type The Incredibles and then the characters show up. Yeah. And it's interesting that there is I don't think it's limited to just animation. I think it comes with CGI in general, where I think there is this weird dismissing of it that somehow it doesn't require the same amount of work that other stuff does. Yeah. And I'm really curious as to where that comes from. I don't know if it's a rendering thing where it's like, oh, that looks fake. Clearly this took no effort to do. When it's like, no, a bunch of people spent a lot of time making that, and it looks that way because they ran out of money and time. You know it's really interesting.
You know what the analog to that is, I think?
What's that?
I always think about this where I think of a vinyl record, right? Mm-hmm. And then think about an MP3 file.
Yes.
To me, it seems like it's almost easier, or it makes more sense how an MP3 works than a vinyl record does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that the hand-drawn animation is kind of the same thing. Like you can more viscerally understand what it means to draw something than it is to render something on a computer, just because a lot of people don't deal with computer work doing things like that. And vinyl records are kind of the same. Like dragging the needle over the groove to make a sound seems like it's like the most arcane, unbelievable thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to just render an MP3 and listen to it in some ways. And
I think that's, not to get into this whole discussion, but I think that's what essentially destroyed the music industry, is because when things got digital, music lost its value because there was nothing to link it to. It was just, it takes 2 seconds to download it to my computer or I stream it, and then that's it. So people don't pay for it anymore.
Yep.
Where there's the reason that you pay for things is because you find value in them generally. And that's kind of what made me skew back towards vinyl, is that I just enjoy the feeling of it feels like more of an event and more of a artistic work when you've got this big thing in your hand. Yeah. Let me rephrase that. When you've got this piece of artwork in your hands that you can look at, that has a physical form and stuff, and you can hear the process happening when you listen to it, versus type in Spotify and then you just open the entire discography of Whitesnake or whatever. You know what I mean? Yep. Which I love to do that as well. But it's interesting how that the ease of accessibility ends up making things seem like they're worth less. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can wrap this one up. There was also news related to this that the VFX company that did the Lion King and the Sonic the Hedgehog redo went out of business. Mm-hmm. Basically, dude, they all know that. I don't know what the end of that story is, but they all do. Yeah, it's just. I think it ties into the lack of understanding of that technology, because they're obviously not funded well enough to do the work that it takes to do. So, a friend of mine posted this short documentary years ago. Now, I'll try to find it if I can, about the FX company that did the special effects for Life of Pi. And that year they won a bunch of Oscars for special effects and all this kind of stuff. And that company went bankrupt, like I think during the production or like just after, because the way that the way that those things work is all of that stuff is like job to job, company to company. So like if a company gets a job for a big movie, their time crunch is so big that they have to hire a whole bunch of people. And so you've got people who are sort of, guns for hire, who have to move to Vancouver to work on Life of Pi for 6 months or 3 months or whatever. And then by the time that's over, they've put so many resources into that thing. It's actually drained their resources to keep their business afloat. So then that company falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's not a great, the visual effects business is not great.
Yeah. No,
it's very
tough.
similar. It sounds very similar to the way video games work too.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you're also, you have to pay highly trained salaries. You know, you're not pulling in entry level workers to do this job. Like you're paying for highly paid professionals who have skills that they alone carry. So you have to pay them a salary that's commensurate with that. And yeah, it's expensive. Obviously, it's just I think Hollywood just hasn't caught up with the fact of how expensive it is, and just to be the company that does that Sonic thing where they fucked it up so badly, and then they're like, we have to redo all this, and they just apparently did it under the gun, like working long hours, and that just bankrupts the company, I guess. So who knows? Yeah,
I think that stuff in general, there's a disconnect as to people understanding what it takes to do. There's another video I saw online that actually our friend Jim sent me a while ago. Where he was like, watch this video and just listen to what they say at the end. And it was a video breakdown of how they did like a lightning effect in Percy Jackson and the Olympians years ago. And it was like Zeus with a lightning bolt coming down and like charging up his staff and all this. It's a fairly simple looking effect. And the guy goes through the thing and he's like, then this layer happens and this and this, and then they show the finished effect. And then he's like, I'd like to thank all the people who worked on this. And then he listed off like 15 people to do this like half-second special effect. And it's like, this must have taken so fucking long to do, but nobody recognizes how long this stuff takes to do. Not even the people who are asking them to do it. Like, I remember the Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm sorry, I'm getting way off topic here, but the Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Wes Anderson movie, the CGI, the claymation movie. I think it was claymation. It was either claymation or it was made to look like claymation.
Yeah, it was like stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion. They would do these shots, and then Wes Anderson had never worked with that stuff before, so he would look at the shot and he's like, I don't know, can we do it this way? And the guys would be like, yeah, come back in like a month.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, because we need to do everything over. You can't just snap your fingers and this stuff happens. So
a lot of storyboarding for that kind of stuff.
But Star Trek, these were fun.
We'll call it a day there. I mean, there's not a lot.
I didn't mean to ramble.
No, there's not a lot to say about these ones. Like I guess the major takeaway is that I like them compared to the other ones, and it's just I think maybe they should shoot for simple, and you know maybe the other takeaway I guess is that I think you could do animated Star Trek.
Simple like two characters in an elevator for 8 minutes?
Basically, yeah, except animated. Yeah. I think you could do an animated Star Trek show, I guess, is the other takeaway from this, which is coming. So it's good to know that it is possible, and that I would view it as, especially if it's in the style of the Ephraim and Dot one, I thought that Star Trek looked good in that universe. It made sense that those were the kind of, that was the kind of visual aspect that would be to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if either of these styles are going to be what the Lower Decks cartoon looks like, or if they're just going to do a more traditional.
That's
like,
more traditional. It looks more like what would it look like? It looked not Family Guy, but something in the vein of that. Like it looks much more like a traditional show that you'd see on Fox.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, that's it for Ephraim and Dot and the Girl Who Made the Stars. Let us know, guys, what you thought about them. And there's only one short track left after this one, which had a terrible trailer that was at the end of it. It's called Children of Mars, but I thought that was a Picard one, but we'll see. It didn't look like it had, I guess it is a prequel to Picard, so it must focus on another character. That's about it.
It didn't look super engaging.
No, it looked really melodramatic and terrible.
Yeah.
So we'll see what it is and how it ties into Picard. But that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening. You can support the show at patreon.com/thepenskyfile. Otherwise, all the social media links are there. And otherwise, DS9 continues, and we will be back to wrap up our DS9 coverage pretty soon. And then we'll have the last short track after that's all done. So thank you very much for listening. See you later.